Evansville and at Toyota. On one hand, you've got Polyram USA dropping $12 million into a new thermoplastics facility on Logistics Drive in Evansville, with 30 new high wage jobs by the end of 2026. On the other, you've got Toyota accelerating US based EV manufacturing to dodge tariff exposure and chase Inflation Reduction Act incentives. Together, those moves affect where your inputs come from and where your outputs might go. In the next few minutes, I'll walk you through what changed and the questions to put in front of your team today so you're not reacting after the damage is done. Let me give you one number to keep in your head today. That number is 30. That's the number of new jobs Polyram USA plans to create in Evansville by the end of 2026 as part of a $12 million, 50,000 square foot thermoplastic compounds facility. When a specialized materials producer is hiring above the county average wage, it usually means they see durable demand for automotive, electrical, and consumer goods customers. For you, that's a signal about future local capacity and the kind of skills that will be competing for your workforce over the next couple of years. The question to ask this week is pretty simple. If Polyram is adding 30 people to support this kind of growth, are we clear on how that local capacity might improve our lead times or change the talent market around our own facility? Now, if you run a manufacturing operation in or around Evansville, Polyram USA's $12 million expansion can change how you think about material sourcing and supply chain resilience over the next few years. Polyram, the American arm of an Israeli thermoplastics company, is building a new 50,000 square foot facility at 6515 Logistics Drive to manufacture thermoplastic compounds. Construction is slated to start this spring, with operations targeted to be fully functional by fall of 2026. And they're planning up to 30 new jobs by the end of 2026 as well, with wages above the Vanderburgh County average. That's not speculative talk. That's real square footage, real headcount, and real product capacity landing in your backyard. What that means for you is pretty straightforward. First, if you're in automotive, electrical, or consumer goods, this expanded local access to high performance thermoplastic compounds that might shorten your supply chain and reduce your exposure to long haul disruptions. Second, higher than average wages in those roles will put some pressure on the local labor market, especially for skilled technicians and operators, which you'll feel in recruiting and retention. Third, when a specialized materials supplier commits that kind of capital, it usually reflects what they see in their customers' order books over the next 10 years, not just the next quarter. So here's what to watch. Pay attention to announcements from the city of Evansville and from Polyram over the next 12 to 24 months about construction milestones, commissioning dates, and hiring waves. As they clarify product lines and capabilities, you want to know whether their compounds line up with your current or future specifications. Here's a question for your team. How might increased local production of thermoplastic compounds by Polyram USA impact our material sourcing strategies, lead times, and our ability to buy local and our ability to build a buy local story into bids with our own customers? Now, if you supply anything to the auto sector from Indiana, Toyota accelerating US EV manufacturing can change the requirements on your products and the strength of your order book over the next decade. New details confirm Toyota is speeding up its investments in electric vehicle manufacturing across the United States to deal with higher tariffs on imported vehicles and components. A big part of that is its nearly $13.9 billion battery plant investment in North Carolina. But the strategy is broader. Localized production so vehicles qualify for Inflation Reduction Act EV tax credits tied to North American assembly and specific battery sourcing rules. That is a structural shift in how and where value is created in the auto supply chain. For Indiana manufacturers, this means at least three things. First, if you already serve Toyota or Toyota tier OEMs, expect more scrutiny on domestic content and traceability in your components, especially anything tied to EV platforms. Second, there's an opportunity window for Hoosier suppliers who can meet the technical standards and compliance requirements of this domestic EV ecosystem, whether that's materials, subassemblies, tooling, or services. Third, if you've historically relied on export heavy or import heavy flows, tariff changes that are forcing Toyota's hand are probably affecting your customers too, even if they haven't said it out loud just yet. So here's what to watch. Look for announcements from Toyota about new or expanded manufacturing capacity in the Midwest and for public requests or partnerships with US-based suppliers for EV components and battery-related materials. Those announcements often telegraph the categories where they're actively looking for domestic partners. Here's a question for your team. Given Toyota's accelerated US EV production and the Inflation Reduction Act requirements, what specific products or capabilities do we have that could realistically plug into the domestic EV supply chain in the next few years? Today, you're staring at specialized materials investment in Evansville on one side and a global automaker reshaping its US EV footprint on the other. And both of those forces flow straight through Indiana's manufacturing economy. PolyRam's $12 million thermoplastics compound facility and 30 new jobs suggested sustained demand and new capacity in high-performance materials close to home. Toyota's push to localize EV production to manage tariffs and qualify for incentives tells you that domestic content and North American sourcing are not just talking points. They're becoming non-negotiable requirements in large chunks of the automotive supply chain. Put together, these moves create both more competition for certain kinds of talent and more opportunity for Indiana operations that can meet the new specifications and documentation standards. Now, obviously, I don't run your plant. You do. My real job as CEO of Tactical Energy Group is to stay on top of everything that changes the cost and reliability of your power and the economics of making things in Indiana, so we can build the right products and programs for the manufacturing community. While I'm doing that work anyway, this brief is my way of giving you as much of that insight as I possibly can so you can spend more time running your operation and less time trying to decode bills, rate cases, and headlines. So let me give you a few questions you can take straight into your morning huddle today. If you can't answer these, it's a signal you're flying blind on how these moves might affect your operation. First question for your team. How might the increased localized production of specialized materials like PolyRam USA's thermoplastic compounds in Evansville change our purchasing decisions, lead times, and our ability to run buy local initiatives with our own customers? Second question. Considering Toyota's aggressive push for US-based EV manufacturing and the Inflation Reduction Act's domestic content requirements, which specific product lines or capabilities do we have that could position us as a meaningful supplier in the evolving North American EV supply chain? Third question. What tariff and trade policy pressures are already influencing our major customers' manufacturing strategies, and how can we proactively adapt our operations or offerings so we're helping them manage those pressures instead of being surprised by changes to their orders? If this helped you see today's headlines through the lens of your own operation instead of just another news scroll, then send it to another Indiana manufacturer who should be ahead of these shifts instead of reacting to them. The more operators are looking at the same facts with clear eyes, the stronger the whole manufacturing community becomes. I'm Daniel Burke. This is TEG Daily. I'll see you tomorrow.